NRL Fantasy buy, hold, sell round 15, the second of the major buy rounds, and a week where you can only field 13 players. Welcome back. I'm Longy. This is Biz. And Biz, how you doing, man?
Man, good. Life's good. Had a good week last week with about 1,070. Moved up almost 1,000 ranks, but placed pretty well for this week. Should have 13. Well, I know we're going to get to the hooker spot. That's my only spot I've got left to cover this week. Don't have the Jazz man. So, how about yourself? You had a good week?
Yeah, I'm sort of floating around the same spot there. So about 1,020 for me last week. I've stagnated between about 1,000th and about 1,400th for the last month of footy. It's been super frustrating. Even last week, I started the round super hot. I just sort of went, all right, cool. I'm gonna make up ranks here. Then I had Tamale and Nico Hines rock out for a combined 26 points, and that broke my heart. But look, many people in the comments are having the same experience, so can't complain too much. Now, we're going to start a bit differently here. Holds or sells comes up first. Then we'll go through position by position, guys, and we'll tear out into hooker, and then we'll go all the way down to wing fullback. So if you want to skip to a certain position, you can, but definitely worth listening to the holds or sells here. Now, Nico Hines does feature here, but top of the list, Svelia Tamale, Kale Iro, both out with pretty solid injuries there. It's a pec for Iro. It's a knee ankle sort of complaint for Tamale. Look, I really haven't looked into the specifics, but both are out for far too long for you to keep them. So they are very, very easy sells this week. You don't have to sell them straight away, though. If you have 3 wing fullbacks and you're considering upgrading Tamale to a better wing fullback, you could just run one of those wing fullbacks on the bench there, like let's say Turbo, for example, in an early game, and see how he scores. If he scores well, you delay the trade till next week. If he scores poorly, you upgrade him to Campbell or something like that. So just use your loophole there and sort of use a bit of strategy. But other than that, I think it's pretty easy. Then we've got Sandon Smith, Yongi, Kautonga. Biz, if you were owning these 3 guys here, what would your priority list be in terms of selling them or any of them ones that you would hold on to?
I mean, potentially you could hold on to Smith just because he gives you some cover this week. He's probably not going to get a big score coming off the bench. I'm not expecting a lot of minutes from him. Although in saying that, there's a chance he could play big minutes at hooker, right? I mean, Ayulu is not noted to play big minutes there. So I'd be keeping him. Yongi and Kautonga, I think it's time to move on. They don't play 15 or 18. Neither are they keepers at their spot or value. They've made their money. And I would be looking to either move them up or cash them down.
Yeah, they've run their race. I'm with you there. Just with Sandon, I personally think he comes on at the half spot. And I think we see Savala play in the forwards a bit in this game as well. Because they've already got Doc Clay on the bench there. I imagine he would take those hooker minutes. Savala's played in the back row before. He's played off the bench for the Roosters in the forwards before too. So I think it could be good news for Savala, but we'll talk about him more in the half spot. For me, Sandon is a pretty easy sell. But look, you're right. If you wanted to loophole him, the issue is he plays very late in the round, so you'd have to have the right roster set up for that. Then the third row here, Max King. This is an easy one. He's made Origin. He's starting now. There is no risk he gets dropped. He's locked in. Seyfarth and Hamish Stewart are a bit dicier. So Stewart has a couple of major buy rounds to go. And Seyfarth is one that has that round 18 major. I think Seyfarth has sort of run his race, and I just think he's not that worth keeping at this stage. You know, he's made his money. He had a bit of a shocker last week in terms of fantasy production. So he's one that's out. Hamish Stewart is a different one. So he's on the bench this week. They've brought in Emre Guler into that starting prop spot. They've gone to Bell into lock. These are guys who can eat up minutes. And we've seen Clemmer go back to a 50-minute role as well. I think Stewart is in serious danger, having a bit of a shocker here. So I'm of the view that, look, you don't rush to sell him. But if you can sell him for someone you'd rather start this week, I'm not against it.
Yeah, I would potentially play Stewart this week. He seems to me to be a better scorer when he's playing a bit less minutes anyway. I think when he's going up to the 55, 60-minute mark, it's not really improving his scoring from playing 40 minutes. I think he can just play a bit more concentrated scoring footy in shorter minutes, especially given it's hard to field. Well, it's not hard. I mean, but, you know, if you don't have 13 this week, I wouldn't be selling Stewart. I'd give him one more week. And with the Dragons pack, man, you know, like one of them gets injured every week. So as long as it's not Stewart, you could be in for a bit of luck next week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, different takes there, different takes on Stewart. Then Hosking Burton, and Burton's one who he's 18th man for the Blues. So he misses club footy this week. He'll miss next week. There's potentially misses around 18 as well. I'm personally preferring a lot of the halves options that pop up next week, though. So Jerome Luai and Latu Fainu at the Tigers are both serious value on their own. We've got Jerome Hughes, who's a value option as well. And then we got some top guys that we'll get later on too. So if I had Burton in my team and I could just field Savala, I probably wouldn't be rushing to sell him desperately yet, unless there was an upgrade to Campbell and that really beefed up my wing fullback or something like that. In which case, pull the trigger there. But I don't know. I'm a bit iffy on this one. We still don't really know what this dog's picture looks like. Sell him if it makes sense for your team, but don't be desperate to tear him out of your side this week.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then on Hosking, he's an interesting one. I know a lot of people have come off him. 47 last week with a try, only an 8-point try, but still in a pretty high-scoring game from forwards. It wasn't a great look for him, but I will say next 3 run of games after this bye are crash hot. And he is the type of player who can get hot pretty quickly. He can score really big when he's going big. The only problem with that is he's just looked poor in this new 80-minute role. I'm not quite sure what's going on with him. Like if I look at his next 3 fixtures, I was looking at this earlier, but it's slipping the top of my head right now. But he's still priced at 43, so he's still value on his historical scores. But his next 3 fixtures are the Tigers, the Knights, Dragons, and then it's Para, and then it's Newcastle, then it's Dragons.
Okay.
He could go. You go
Man,
nuclear
you're right. Simi Sasangi is going to have a few days out in that run.
Yes, I know. I mean, yes.
Not Hosking.
Simi Sasangi is going to score 80 and Hosking will score a couple of tries and get to 50 at this rate. But I'm honestly thinking of just holding him. Look, I could die by this one. There's so many good players in that price range or just slightly above. But I think with that next 6, there's a chance Hosking has a few big scores. And he's playing well in real life, just not translating to stats in real life. But I think I'll risk him and just keep holding on to him. But I know he has been underperforming for sure. I think I'm not really sure what's wrong with him. He's playing significantly worse than his historical stats suggest. Last 3 games, 37, 42, and 47. Not the best, but I'm seeing better days ahead.
That 47 as well, injury in the back line caused him to get 80 minutes. Otherwise, he would have played his customary 65 minutes. So I know the try and the extra minutes there. He was looking at like a 32, without all those boosters. So, my view is if you can move Hosking for one of the top guys we've talked about, I'm talking like Colom and Tangi, Couchman. If you don't have these guys, you have to make that move. But I get what you're saying. Don't force him out of your team if you don't have a better move to make. So I'm with you on that one. And he does have the potential to pop off. It doesn't look like it to me. Then Nicho Hynes, Nathan Cleary, Payne Haas, all for different reasons here. All guys who have been at the top of the fantasy list in past years. And all guys who have fallen off for different reasons in the last couple of weeks. So for Nicho Hynes, the first one, there's forks in the road. As Turtle said, we were chatting to him, there are forks in the road during a season where you're sort of choosing between 2 things. And that Nicho Hynes v. Isaiah Katoa decision, where I went Hynes myself just on the back of that nuclear upside. So thinking, his week to week is going to be lower than Katoa's. He doesn't have the same base stats, but he's going to have a couple of those explosion games. Now, what we've seen from Nicho is he has floated between solid to invisible. Like, we haven't seen any of those explosion games. Nothing over 60, really. And it's been pretty frustrating. It was really headlined by a 25-point game last week where, he had a bunch of missed tackles and just didn't crack any attacking stats in a game where the Warriors pounded the Sharks and sort of made them look like pretenders, which is not great news for Nicho. Now, do the Sharks respond is the question there. And if your answer to that question is no, Cronulla suck, then you can sell Hynes. But my view is they don't. I think they're a pretty solid side. They're pretty much full strength through the origin period. They do lose Kale Iro, but I think they bounce back. I think they'll be embarrassed about that performance, and I think they want to be taken seriously. You have to expect that Nicho Hynes won't be that bad again. So I'm setting myself up, similar to you with Hosking, right? I'm setting myself up to die by this one and just say, you know what? I know what Hynes can do. He's now getting cheap. I might ride him all the way down to 400K, like many did with Ponga and these other players. But I just can't see many other options that I'm keen to tear into. Like, there's a lot of cheaper options that I really enjoy. So I might as well just keep it with Hynes, And I feel the same way about Cleary and Haas, by the way, to keep all these guys and just play around with some of those 500K kind of options there instead of, I don't know, selling these big dogs just to spend the money on other guys who are equally inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm keeping all 3. I think we got on Hynes at the same time. It's been I wouldn't say it's been disappointing. Like, he's been giving me what I paid for, really. I bought him at a 53 average, and that's pretty much what he scored over the last 5-6 weeks. The last week's 25 wasn't great. She's got the Dragons this week. on a bounce back game. I'm hoping Hines catches fire at some point in the season, but I'm not looking to move him. I just don't think there's a huge difference between a guy like Hines and Isaiah Katoa. Like, I know Isaiah Katoa is on a hot run, but he's averaging only 5 more than Hines or something, or maybe 6 or 7 more now.
Man.
And like Katoa, he is killing it, but I just not wasting a trade for the same buy schedule for 5-6 points. But right now, it does look more like a 20-point difference in the long run. But like you said, I'm just banking that the Hines will have a big game eventually. It might not happen. He just doesn't look the same. But you never know. If Trindle goes down, if Trindle has the HIA and he hits the bulk kick meters, you never know. But I think Cleary and Haas are an easier proposition. Everyone's dwindling now in trades. Like, the trades are running out pretty quickly. I know we'll get 10 more later in the year, but Cleary and Haas aren't worth trading out, in my opinion. If you haven't traded them out already at the start of the Origin period, just run onto them. I mean, Cleary, there's no one anywhere near as good as him in the halves, and Haas has had some lower scores, but you would want him in your team. And we saw after Origin 1, he still backed up at 60 minutes. So might not back up this week because they're in Perth, but I would just be keeping them at this point.
I'm with you there completely. Unless you have a reason to use the money, right? So if you're a team who's lower on cash, or for some reason you don't have both Couchman and Kalamatangi, or you need 2 forwards and you can get Kalamatangi and Aitken, and Haas is the only way you get there, which I don't see that being most teams. But there are teams out there who do have that situation where I think it makes sense. But for most of us, I'm getting a few comments on some of these videos, sort of people saying, Haas might get down to 800K, he might drop another 100K, whatever it is. Who cares? We have so much cash this year. We are so flush with cash, and there are so many cut price keepers popping up as well. Gus Crichton is going to be in the 500s after Origin. Jerome Hughes is in that 500s area. Like, there's a bunch of guys. Harry Grant, if he's the prime hooker, he's like 600K. Like, there's so many cheaper options. We don't really need to be, scrapping together, using 2 trades to save 100K on Haas. Like, just stick with him. He may not be effective over the next month, but I don't think it's worth the trade in, trade out, unless you have a reason and you really need the money. It's just not worth it in my view. Cleary, I will shout though. So we do have to represent both sides of these conversations. Cleary does miss 3 of the next 4 games, so he won't back up in New Zealand after playing Origin in Perth 2 days earlier. So Cleary, there's a bigger case to sell Cleary, I think, than Haas. At this stage, Haas will lose more cash, but Cleary's going to miss more games. I think scoring is more important than cash. So from my perspective, with Nathan Cleary, you have a look at your team. Like, if you have the cover, I wouldn't sell him. Like you said, there's just no one contending at the level that he's at. So I'm sticking with him pretty firmly. But if you're really light in the halves, I'd rather sell other guys than Cleary. That's why he's at the bottom of this list. Now let's tear into some position by position stuff. So we got hooker, middle forward, edge, half, and center. We got a wing fullback here. A couple of guys are dual positions. They'll get chatted about on the first section they appear in. Now, hooker's a pretty dire list, man. Like, Biz, we were talking about this before the show. This list is barren. This is not ideal.
Disgusting.
And look, it doesn't factor in round 18. Damien Cook, he's pedigree. Then we've got Kurt Donahue, Lachlan Croker, Carl Lawton at the Cowboys, Jaden Brayley at the Knights, and Benaya Iolu, I believe it's pronounced there, at 248K. So Cookie first. I mean, you're in a position where you need a hooker, right? I've got the GOAT, Jazz Tavanga, the good-looking man himself. So I'm not really worrying about this list too much, which is why I was laughing as I made this slide. But talk to me from your perspective. When you look at this list, how are you feeling? What are you targeting? And why are you writing off certain guys?
Look, Damien Cook is the most interesting in terms of the last 2 games before last week. He was playing big minutes at hooker, close to 80 minutes. And we know that he's a 60, 65 scorer when he's doing that. Last week would have scared a lot of people off, just given that a low score. But you got to be realistic. He played center for most of that game, and they just kept targeting his side. I just don't. He's not going to play center again unless they have that injury. But in his long career, there hasn't been too many times he's filled in at center, so I'm not too worried about that. Especially after that showing. Hopefully they don't do that again. I think with Cook, it's really still the question. Do you think he's going to play 70, 75, 80 minutes and he's playing at lock when Little comes on? If that's the case, absolutely. He's still value at this price. He's priced at 45. We've seen that he's a 65 guy when he plays those minutes. And the 2 games before this week, he had 70-plus scores playing 70-odd minutes. So he's the most interesting from a scoring and keeper perspective. Like he could be a keeper. On the flip side, the bench doesn't look great for him. As you mentioned earlier in the show, Gula's already come back. He was playing big minutes to start the year. If they've got a lot of middles, well, then they don't need him playing lock. And they've got Hamish Stewart coming off the bench as well now. It's a hard one to evaluate because, as we spoke about last week and earlier on this show, the Dragons pack there's an injury every week. So we don't actually truly know the minutes composition Cook would get if everyone was healthy on any given week. So you're taking a bit of a punt here. And at 600K, it's an expensive punt as well. So based on that, some of the other options at the bottom of the list might be more interesting. And, skipping right, towards the end, if you're not punting on Damien Cook, then you might want to just be like, okay, I don't have Jazz. I don't have Damien Cook. Well, I'm just going to play this round safe. And I'm just going to either zero it out, right? Why waste a trade on a crap player that I won't use for the next 10 weeks? Or I'll just go really cheap. And then you've got Benny, how did you say it pronounced?
Iolu.
Okay. Sorry, man. I think he's a decent option too because he's kind of won that position of cup form. And he's not a great scorer, but taking 25 and some cash off the table, not the end of the world. So here's the other interesting proposition for me. And the middle three, just awkwardly priced, same proposition, not going to get many games out of them. I'll quickly run through all three of them just to speed this section up because it's really not worth talking about. But Lonnie, feel free to chip in afterwards. Donahue, look, Marshall King hovering around, awkwardly priced, doesn't play round 18, just not interested at 475K. Croker and Lorden, Croker is a more interesting one because he does play round 18 and he's bottomed out in price, but his stats last year are nothing to write home about. Got low 30s, high 20s average. So even if you buy him at this price, what are you really getting him for? You're not getting much more scoring than Beniolu. So what is really the point of that? I'd rather go save myself 100K and go down to the bottom. And Jaden Brayley is really, look, as good as he is as a scorer, we know he's on the outer, and they love Crossland, and Crossland is not going to play lock going forward. It's just temporary. I just think Crossland goes back to hooker very soon, and Brayley drops out of the side. So you might get him for a week. He doesn't play round 18. What's really the point? So I think really the only two options on this list are, either Damien or Ben. And I wouldn't look at anyone else.
We've been asked a lot about Kurt Donahue in comments and DMs and that kind of thing. I will just throw some numbers at you. So Donahue named to start at lock this week with Marshall King back. Obviously Plath out for an extended period. Flegler out for extended period. You've got Gilbert out for an extended period. They've just got everyone. Dan Safidi's out for an extended period. Their forward pack is totally depleted. So Donahue may stay at that lock spot. Now, last 3 games. Actually, I'll give you a 5-game run. Even since round 4, he hasn't played under 40 minutes in a game. So in games he's played, right? So he's missed a couple of games. But since round 4, hasn't played under 40 minutes. Last 3 scores have been 59 points in 72 minutes, 60 points in 69 minutes with a try, and 41 points in 70 minutes. Now, you could argue the boost there with those guys out, Marshall King out. But if he's playing lock, if he played both major buy rounds remaining with the half hooker duel, I'd think about it. But 474K, I'm more interested in guys like Luai at that price or Jerome Hughes next week. And I get that they're not hooker, so I think you go Damien Cook. That's my view on this. You go Damien Cook. He's priced at about a 45. He should average about 50 for the rest of the year, right? So you're getting minor value, you're getting great buy coverage, and you're getting that hooker spot, relatively covered there. With Iolu, I do like the cash out, but if you've gone with Lawson already as one of your cash outs, you probably can't get a second cash out who's kind of useless to your team. So I think if you've gone Lawson already, you just have to go Damien Cook. But if you don't have Lawson or any useless red dots in your side, you can go Iolu because you can have one of those. I think you can have one. I don't think you can have 2 or 3. Now, that's the hooker spot. That's pretty straightforward. Middle forward is also a little bit easier. Some of the other positions get a bit spicier. But Kalamatangi, Couchman, we've been on this for ages. We've been talking about most of these guys for a long time. But Kalamatangi, Couch, Viz, I see you looking around. These guys are, I'm just going to make this worse for you.
Screen.
These guys are must-have options. Really, if you're a fantasy coach and you don't have Kalamatangi and Couchman, what have you been doing? What have you been doing for the last for the last couple of weeks of footy. Like, these two are pedigree, dual position, major buy round coverage. I will admit, for you, Biz, I will admit, Kalamatangi is very close to 18th man for Origin. So we could have all been screwed over and you could look like a genius. But I'll ask you now, because 800K, it's pretty expensive. Are you bringing him in? Is the 3 back-to-back 80-plus scores enough to convince you?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to question. Like, he hasn't made Origin now. Like, it's fine. Like, I have the funds to just straight trade. Okay, I was tossing it, I was reversing it and buying him in up until like kickoff for the Raiders Rabbits games, and I was like, if I buy him, he's making Origin, and if I don't buy him, he's scoring a try in the 5th minute.
So you saved us.
And I didn't buy him,
yeah.
And he scored a try in the 5th minute. So to everyone who has Kalamatangi, send your thanks, send your prayers. I did you all a favor, because it's a true case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. And I knew I was going to lose that battle either way. But look, still had a good score last week because I had some of the other guys step up. Corey Horsburgh, who was my trade out, he played well anyway. So it was only really a 30-point swing. Still a lot, but also cost me about 60 odd K or 80K or whatever he's gone up. But yeah, he's definitely my team this week. I got Couchman last week. So we've got Kalamatangi covering. I've got Couchman and I've got Tallis Duncan here. Of 4th on the list. So that's a great middle trio for me this week. I mean, I'll quickly cover them off. Collar's an easy one. Cashman's an easy one. Everyone knows what they can do. Tallis Duncan, look, he's now 456K. He had a big 57 last week. The thing with Tallis Duncan is that he averages about 43, playing 80 minutes at edge. So at 456K, he's not a must-have by any means. But I just didn't have any mids this week prior to last week. So I had to start getting them in. So Couchman and Duncan came in. And Kalamatangi is coming in this week. But I think Duncan's still good value for your side. He's not going to be, like, don't look at his 57 and think he's going to be a 50-point scorer. Like, he's not really a 50-point scorer. He's going to score you 40s and 45s, and then he's going to have some crappier games of 25, 30, and he's going to average around the low 40s. So I don't think he's a must-have by any means, but does have dual position and great buys from here. If you're really lacking for mid and don't have the funds, I just generally think you have to have Kalamatangi and you have to have Couchman this week. Like, do whatever in your sides to get them. And then if you're looking for a third, Tallis Duncan's not the worst.
Yeah, if I was buying one, he's the one I'd buy this week for sure. I've got Fanua Blake on my side. We'll talk about him in a sec. But quick question for you, Biz. If someone has Hamish Stewart, right? And, we're saying Hamish Stewart is one that you could sell if you have the right deal. Is Hamish Stewart to Tallis Duncan worth a trade?
No, I don't think so. I think they end up scoring the same. Similar buy schedules. Duncan has that edge, but you don't really need that edge dual position because if you have Kalamatangi and Couchman, they both have dual position already. You don't need so many dual position players. So I would not be doing Stewart to Duncan, no way.
I agree. And I wanted to highlight that because, we put one in sells, one in buys, but that's not worth a trade, right? A trade should be, to make 150K or to make a bunch of points up. So, yeah, I'm with you there. I wouldn't make that swap. Fanua Blake is up next, and I was just trying to fill this slide, really, and looking at guys. And Fanua Blake played 60-plus minutes last week, and the Sharks played disgusting footy. Like, they were absolutely terrible. Fanua Blake wasn't bad himself. I thought he was okay. He wasn't particularly explosive, so didn't rack up big offloads, tackle breaks, all that sort of jazz. But 62 minutes in that game, encouraging. And the fact that their bench is so light for minute sponge forwards makes me think that Fanua Blake is going to continue to eat up minutes there. Now, in that game, he played more minutes than McInnes, which is a good sign too, because that proves to us, okay, they're not just going to give all those minutes to McInnes who can handle them. They want Fanua Blake punching this out. And I will say too, Fanua Blake, as much as his fantasy scores haven't been great this year, he leads the comp in post-contact meters. So, and that was before last week as well. So he's racking up huge post-contact meters. He's playing good footy. He just hasn't quite had those tackle breaks, those offloads that I think we're going to see from him coming forward. I still believe the theory too, Sharks are relatively unaffected by Origin. We're going to see more Fanua Blake, more of the Sharks winning some games. But at the same time, I mean, they got smashed by the Warriors. They got smashed by the Roosters when they were missing all their Origin guys. So hasn't come true so far. I'm probably going to keep riding that wave and just, run with that belief that they will get it together. One thing I will shout out to is Cronulla often can get a bit edge happy. And, Kale Iro has scored tries in, 9 consecutive games to start the year. Him out of the team. They've got Hiroti, Sione Katoa come in as well. Then Mulatalo and Ramian, who hasn't really done much this year. Ramian, he's been very quiet for fantasy. maybe that edge attack becomes a bit less explosive, and guys like Nakora, guys like Fanua Blake start getting a bit more of that, prime rib sort of primo ball close to the line and scoring a few more tries. So I don't know. I wouldn't be buying Fanua Blake this week, but as an owner, I thought I'd throw him in there. He's kind of like the fourth option on this list.
I want to actually go the other way and say I would not mind buying Fanua Blake this week. And the reason for that is we've seen his minutes uptick. Like they kind of started the year where he was, he started the year at 54 minutes, 49, 50 minutes. So really they're trying to target him 50 minutes. Last 3 games, 67, 59, and 64. So it's kind of gone back up to the 60 to 65 mark. And that is the Adam Fanua Blake we know that averages 60 when he plays 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So they're clearly trying to get more minutes in his legs. And I actually think all the points you made about the Sharks playing poorly over the last few weeks is more of a reason to keep their star recruit and key forward leader out there. Like Fanua Blake is so much better than everyone else in that forward back. They need him out there. So I actually think that this could be an opportunistic time to buy a guy that is the upper echelon of player for a discounted price. And if he played round 18, I think I'd do it. I just think he's not as good as Colo and he's not as good as Couchman. But at his price, though, like Couchman's at a discount, but Fanua Blake is not a bad option in my mind. I do think he has some big games. He's got the Dragons this week as well. So we know when the Dragons play, there's high-scoring middles because they like to keep the ball in the middle of the field, and they don't make they play pretty conservative footy, so the ball's in play a lot more. So I would not be surprised to see a huge Fanua Blake score this week.
Man, I hope you're right. Look, 3-round average just under 60, so you're spot on there. He's on form. It's just a tough one. Like if you're talking about Fanua Blake versus Talis Duncan, right? Like we can talk about the how much value is each guy and that kind of thing, but I think practically in terms of how it actually eventuates in your squad. With Talis Duncan, you end up with a guy like we talked about people buying Smithies a few weeks back. Smithies was a great option, but you have this guy in your squad that you're looking to sell every week. Like you look at him and you go, "Oh, I should really consolidate that cash." Whereas with Fanua Blake, he's close enough to a keeper that you're sort of, you know what I mean? You're sort of in that area where he's all right on your bench. Maybe it's a loophole, whatever it is there. Solid option. So, yeah, as we get through this buy period, I'm leaning more and more towards either get a guy who's a keeper or a guy who I don't expect to be in my 17 at all. Like I'm really just trying to categorize guys based on that. So that's why I've got Fanua Blake, but it's a tough one to recommend for everyone because he has had some absolute shockers. I think Biz has the dog running around behind him as well. But look, Loco Pacific Tonga's the
How do you know?
Mate, I know the struggle. I know we just pick him up and put him on the show, but Loco Pacific Tonga, 300K here. This is an interesting one. So we talked about this a few weeks ago as a guy who you could back the talent there. Good and bad news for him. The good news is 40 points in 40 minutes last week. You love to see that. The bad news is the Dragons got absolutely destroyed by the Dolphins, who are not at full strength, right? So not a juggernaut at all. They got pounded into the earth. And the Dragons have made changes to their forward pack that has meant that Gula's coming in starting. Clemmer's getting more minutes and Kamish Stewart's now on the bench. There could be a minute squeeze for Pacific Tonga. So for him, the upside is we're seeing the minutes move in the right direction. But the downside is that roster change indicates that he may experience some minutes pressure. If I was going to guess for you, and it genuinely is a guess, right? If I was going to guess for you, I would say maybe 30 minutes this week, 30 odd points. And the issue with that is that if you buy him at 300K, he's a cash out. Like he's not quite a full cash out, but he's a cash out. He covers both major buy rounds. But with how flush we are for good players, especially middle forwards through this period, do you really want to be playing Loco Pacific Tonga when everyone else is talking about, my middle three is Koloamatangi, Couchman, Fanua Blake. Like, do you want to be giving up, 30 to 40 points against me without having one of those guys? Even Talis Duncan, he's that mid-40s guy. That's 15 points better than what we talked about for Pacific Tonga, who could be even worse than that, by the way. He'd go down to 20 minutes, play 20 points. Like, I just think this is one that, if it suits your team, you can do it. But I think we're too late for this type of option.
I think I agree. There's too many good mids available this week for keepers to play. I don't mind Koloamatangi and Couchman into a top Pacific Tonga. If you've got, my mids, I've got Haas away, May away, Tapane away, Corey Horsburgh away. Hors is turning into Collar, but if you've got a ton of mids already and you don't want to buy into a Duncan, then Tonga is worth cashing out to maybe as a third. But I definitely agree with you. You are going to give up points because a lot of people are going to have a stacked front three this week.
Yeah, and you probably don't play him in round 18 too. So he's not really like a loophole guy. Like it's different when you go to center or wing fullback, especially wing fullback, and you go a bit cheaper because those guys you can loophole them, right? Like we'll talk about Tyrone Munro when we get to wing fullback, but he's a guy who can score 5 points or 60, and you can just loophole that and guarantee it. Whereas specifically Tonga, it's 20 to 40. It's just not that exciting. Now tearing into the edge forward spot again, there's a bit of a chance to be exciting here, but there are some pretty correct answers here as well. So Preston, Pierce, Paul, Ewan Aitken, I think they're all in a similar league to each other. I do think that I would rank them in the order that they are priced at, if not potentially putting Pierce Paul above Preston. Bit of bias as a Pierce Paul owner myself, but when you factor in the buy coverage, maybe Pierce Paul drops to the bottom there. So I mean, if I was buying one this week, I'm probably leaning towards Aitken just for the value there, and then probably Preston and then Pierce Paul. But as a Pierce Paul owner, I don't think I'm going to sell him this year. Like I just think he's such a stud. He's been pumping out big numbers. That 80-point game last week was special. He nearly had an 80-point game a couple of weeks ago as well, and he got himself sin bin and scored like 65. So yeah, I'm all aboard the Kai Pierce Paul train. But I think Aitken's probably the one that you target this week if you're buying one of them.
I think the Newcastle edge positions are a gold mine for fantasy, even though their team is the opposite of a gold mine. I think I would rank them Aitken, Preston, and Pierce Paul, just because I think Aitken's the best value. To be frank, I think Preston and Aitken are the same scorer. Like I think it's a high 50s average, and Aitken is 100k cheaper. Kai Pierce Paul is, I think, outperforming. But it's also one of those situations where he's doing it for a prolonged period. So it could just be this is his year. This could be his Sean Lane season. You know what I'm talking about? Like it could be Sean Lane 22 season where he's just on a hot run of form and he'll finish the year like that. I don't know if I feel comfortable buying Pierce Paul at 7, 8, 10K, missing round 18, but I wouldn't hesitate buying Aitken this week or Preston. I personally do have two edges for this week, but I still think I will bring Aitken in as an upgrade to a position. I just think he's still great value. And we've just seen in this Rabbits team that he's just pumping out big scores for fun. Like he seems like a 60 average guy. So I'm actually, look, I wasn't going to get it, but then this guy just keeps scoring really well. So at 675, he's still priced. What is he priced at? He's priced at 50. And his average this year in the second row, I'm just quickly doing the math right now. His average is 60.4. So it's 10 points undervalued.
How many attacking stats in that?
I'll read out his average. Yeah, I mean, he's got one try, but his averages are 47 tackles and 100 meters. So 57 solely from tackles and meters. And then he breaks more tackles than he misses, and he's had one offload. He only 2 turnover tackles in 5 games. Like he's just a weapon, and I think I'm going to get him in.
If you add in South Sydney potentially settling a bit as well, because they've been changing their halves combo so much, and they've been all over the place, Souths, right? So if they can sort of settle down and get in some form, which I think is completely possible post-Origin, then Aitken could be a machine down the stretch. I will say with Pierce Paul, though, so you go, yep.
No, I was just going to say on Aitken, I will say he did have a couple of bad misses leading to tries last week. But I just don't think there's any threat for his spotted edge anyway. So especially with Campbell Graham. Jacob Host could replace Koloamatangi. So
mate. I mean, there is that risk always that Koloamatangi goes back to the edge for a bit, but yeah, I don't see Aitken.
He's been like the best mid for the last month of footy. We're not moving him back to edge. That's done. He's not playing edge again.
Shout out with the other two though. I'll make the case for the other two because I agree with you. Aitken's probably the one to get. Pierce Paul. Fletcher Sharp was finding himself on Pierce Paul's edge quite a bit last week. And that combination led to Pierce Paul making a clean line break and then Fletcher Sharp backing up on the inside and scoring a try. So leading to a try assist that basically no one else would have scored. Like Cogger and Hastings aren't scoring that try. So Sharp being over there is great news for Pierce Paul because we're seeing a bit of that attacking upside, which, he's carried himself to a high 50s, near 60 average without attacking stats, basically. So if we see a few attacking stats, he potentially enters that 65 echelon, which I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like the way he plays, he just effortlessly gets to 50. He's like a PPM guy a lot of the game, and just requires just a couple of little pop plays to be decent. And then for Jacob Preston, the form he was in before he got himself suspended, by the way, not injured, so suspended. He's had a long rest. He's probably fully fit now, like no injury concerns, nothing like that. The Dogs need him back. They're an exciting side right now, and he comes back in. He could absolutely kill it, but you're paying top dollar there. Again, I don't think we need the cash that much. I just think if you want to go Preston, you're really doing it for the pot effect. Like, you're paying overs for a guy who I think Preston is 3 or 4 points better than Aitken, personally. I sort of see Aitken as, mid to high 50s. Preston is 60. I think he's proven he's a 60.
I mean, Preston scored 5 tries in 9 games. Do you see that continuing? I mean, the Dogs, I guess with Galvin there, they've got better. So
and Preston is that guy, man. Like, he's that guy. Like, one of the tries is like dummy half run. Like,
unreal.
He actually creates this stuff. And how fun is it to own a guy like that? Aitken is the logical statistical answer. But Preston would be fun, and Pierce Paul's my bias. So everyone's going to have to make their own call there. Aitken's the safe answer. Olakau'atu, I've separated him off just because he's a tier below these guys. Do you think there's any reason why someone should consider Olakau'atu when those 3 are available, or do you think it's just a crazy pod play, hoping for the best with a very good Titans matchup this week?
Yeah, it's a pod play if you need to catch up. I just don't think you don't buy it. Like, the top 3 are so good. So he has boom games like last week with the 90+, but he just has a wider range of outcomes, or his average just falls below. And I just think he's decently priced, but look, I'm not picking him over the 3 above him. And also on the flip side, we have 3 dual position players in the mids as well. I'm not picking Ola over Couchman. I'm not picking him over Colo, and I'm not picking him over Tallis Duncan at the price point.
Yeah. This is a case where a guy, he's much more explosive in real life than he is in fantasy. And I think he sometimes gets that real life explosive glow applied to his fantasy scoring. In reality, Preston, Pierce Paul, and Aitken can all boom the same as Olakau'atu and have much safer bases. So they don't have those 35-point games that he has. Then Kai O'Donnell, 249K. Look, this is a case of if you're totally desperate and you don't want to buy an edge, which I can't imagine why. Like, these are awesome options. You could get Kai O'Donnell at 249K. He is looking fairly certain to start across both major buy rounds, round 15 and round 18. And then outside of that, he'll be a loophole option, which, again, if you're a team who needs Kai O'Donnell, you probably have a few issues with cash generation. So you're probably running loopholes most weeks. So it's not a bad situation to be in. If you're a first-time player, don't feel ashamed that you can't afford Preston. Kai O'Donnell is he's like half of Preston without the attacking upside. So, you can have a bit of fun with him too. And then half position tearing in. And we've got a lot of fun halves next week. So I do want to flag Jerome Hughes and Jerome Luai, who we talked about a bunch last week. Both went well. So Jerome Luai pumped out. Again, 100-plus meters, big kick meters. Panthers game where he didn't have any attacking stats, cracked 50 for the first time. He is so firmly on my radar. And Jerome Hughes scored 80+, which I'm actually super upset about because most people weren't believing in him. What I wanted from him was like 130 meters run, 5 tackle breaks, 48 points. Like, that's what I was looking for Jerome Hughes, but he came out and grabbed all the attacking stats. So I think they're cracker options for next week, which is why I've included a lot of wing fullback dual position guys in this list, because you can buy a half for this week as coverage that you then slide into wing fullback, and then you can buy another half next week. So it's Isaiah Katoa, Campbell, and Sharp, the first 3. I'll ask you first. I know you don't have Katoa. I don't have Katoa either. Do you have Campbell yet? I know you've got Sharp.
No, I don't have Campbell or Katoa. They're all in my hit. Like, Katoa and Campbell are on my hit list, but I just don't need them this week. I've got Hines and the lad himself, King Togia, covering me this week.
Not Savala? The goat?
No, I moved Savala on. I just like, in my personal opinion, Savala is like, I'm glad he made the team, but like, without the kick meters, like, I don't think he was worth holding on to. I think Sam Walker hogs the kick meters, and he's not a dynamic. He's a base stats guy. So I just personally didn't think it was worth holding on to. Could be proven wrong, but
I'll just counter on Savala because I'm a Savala starter this week as it stands right now. It may change. I might buy Drinkwater and move Sharp up or something like that. But Right now, I'm starting Savala, and I reckon that those minutes in the forwards, if Sandon's on the bench, could be solid for the base as well. I think if he's playing 7, that's probably because they're developing him to be the 7 long term. So I think he may hog the kick meters. I think Sam Walker may play 6, even though it's been named the opposite way. And if he does play 6, I'm just open to the idea that maybe he, uses that big frame and runs the ball more. So they've got a good matchup this week. It's a friendly matchup. I think he could pop off. But anyway, passing back to you, man.
Yeah, I think Katoa's proven that he's the second best fantasy half this year. He's just in real life form is translating well to fantasy. I know we just talked about Ola being better in real life than in fantasy, but Katoa is great in both this year, and he's getting a ton of tackles. He's getting a ton of kick meters, and he's running the ball a lot too. Like he's running for like 120, 130, 150 meters a game this year, and that's the biggest difference between this year and last year. Like what's changed? Well, he's getting a lot more assists, fine, but his base stats have increased significantly too. And how old is he? Like 21, so only makes
Third
sense.
year,
and
yeah.
I think Katoa is right up there with the elite halves of. And I think if you don't have a second half this week, or any halves this week, I'm targeting Katoa and Campbell for sure. Like you're going to want them in your team to end the year, and now you might as well now in the bye week. So I just don't think I can. I'm toying to get Campbell in, and so I don't have to play King Chogia. But they're both expensive. That's the only problem. Like 740, 772k. So tricky propositions, but I think they're great buys. And same with Fletcher Sharp. Like we've just seen, he is the guy. Honestly, he's just been the bright spot for the Newcastle attack. Like he just has been much better than Ponga this year. They're giving him more and more ball because every time he touches it, something good happens. I just think that he's going to be up there with the top 3 fullbacks, if not halves this year, and dual position, no chance of origin. I feel like a lot of people have him already, but he's still pretty decently priced for what he can do. We saw him go nuclear last, when he played fullback a few weeks ago. Let's see if he can back it up.
Yeah, 2 of his last 3 games are 80 plus. That's enormous. That's nearly Kolomatangi sort of levels of scoring. One thing I will shout out here is Jaden Campbell. So I know I did think the Broncos had cooked the Titans up, but I thought the Titans might put up a fight as well. So I will caveat that. I thought they'd be better. I thought they would throw some attack at the Broncos too. I sort of thought maybe both sides would get it out. Titans looked pretty hopeless in that game. And Jaden Campbell was clamped up deluxe. Now, he had some pretty solid base stats and he was trying things, but that 33, that one stings. And the Titans don't look much better this week because they come into this game this week. They get Bo Firma back, but they don't have Tino. They don't have Fodawaker. They still don't have Dave Fafita as well. So their forward pack is down on men. I don't know. Just Campbell doesn't rely on the Titans being a great team, but he kind of relies on them not being completely terrible. And it looked bad. It looked bad last week. And I don't know, like sustainably, you think about this in the past, right? Like long term, when you buy a guy, you can buy a guy in the bottom team and they can pop off for a bit. It often doesn't last though. Often they get hurt or whatever it is. They're just trying too much. I'm a bit scared of that. So I look at Campbell as a non-owner. I see a high break even this week. I'm on the fence. I'm really on the fence about this one. Like I think he's a stud and he's going to pump out some massive scores, but I'm worried that the trend will go in the wrong direction. And the reason Fletcher Sharp's different to that, by the way, Fletcher Sharp had 34 tackles last week. Like 34 tackles. I think he had 1 or 2 missed tackles. So, he's got 30 points in base stats there. Now, he has the big attacking plays as well. And, the Knights are a team who, as much as the Knights suck, they lead the league in post-contact meters as a club. So they're doing certain things well.
That's crazy. I did not know that.
They got ball runners. I'll double check that next time you're talking as well, just to make sure I'm not BSing. But I'm pretty sure I saw that. So they're pumping out. Like their guys can run the ball, and a guy like Fletcher Sharp, he can pop through. And as much as their issue is structurally, the 7 spot is just not filled. They bring Hastings in, maybe that gets fixed up as well. But Ponga hasn't been potent either. It's been all Fletcher Sharp, so he's different. Jaden Campbell, I'm a little worried about. Still a great buy this week. Fantastic buy this week, but just be cautious and only buy him if you think the Titans can be somewhat competitive. So to the level of a 13th place team. Like I'm not even talking like 8th place. Like to that level where they're in games. That's what I'm looking for from him. Isaiah Katoa, though, if you need a pure half, That's the play. That's the play. Let me read some numbers out for you for Isaiah Katoa too, because I feel like an idiot not buying Isaiah Katoa. I feel so stupid for it. But these numbers for a 58 average, Biz: 115 meters run, 450 kick meters. You've got 1 offload a game. You've got 3 missed tackles a game, 1.5 tackle breaks, 22 tackles. You've got 1 try assist per game, and 1 try every 10 games. He has 1 try in more than 10 games this year. That's for a 58 average. Is that sustainable?
I mean, I want to justify picking Hines over him and say that it's not.
We can't fall into that trap, man. We cop the L. We cop the L.
Well, I've copped that L. I think he's just a look. Would you say he's been the best half in the game this year, like in real life?
He's been fantastic.
He's been fantastic. Look, pretty close to the best half back in the game. It's
very Cleary-ish though, like the way, even the stat line, like it's very Cleary-ish the way he plays. And
once you add goals into that proposition, once he starts kicking them, man, like I just can't think of a half that's coming to mind that's playing better on the field right now than Katoa.
Cleary 2.0, man.
He looks fantastic. Yeah,
every year he's been better too.
I just think I'm definitely starting with him next year. But look, is it sustainable? Yeah, I think so. Like you said, he might be overperforming in some stats, but he's underperforming in others. And I think he's just going to consistently churn out these big scores. The tack runs through him now, and he's going to get better and better with every game. And his confidence is growing. And look, far out. I don't know if he's going to get much cheaper than this without a HIA or any. I mean, halves can always have a bad game, but he is looking good. But he is expensive. So
just shout out to, you were talking about the Cleary comparison. So the stat sheet is actually very similar to Cleary. Cleary has a few more, basically 1 more tackle break per game and 1 less missed tackle. So he's obviously a bit more mature physically, makes less tackles as well. Cleary kicks a bit more, has a few less try assists too. So very similar stat lines though. If you looked at those two, you'd think, that's pretty much the same. Cleary's a 62 without goal kicking when you take out the concussion game, and Katoa is a 58. So they're basically playing very similar stat sheets. I don't know if you think the Dolphins. The issue again though, right, is if we're betting on attacking stats and that kind of thing, they put 50 on the Dragons. So they're playing some footy. The Dolphins. They get Marshall King back. I do worry about this forward pack though. Like you look at their forward pack, it's not what it was at the start of the year. You know, you've got what's his name again? The hooker, Donahue. Donahue starting at lock. You got Oren Keeley in the back row. You know, these guys are going hard, but they're not Tom Gilbert, Max Plath, Tom Flegler, Dan Safidi, right? So again, that catches up to you, and that's my concern with all 3 of these guys. But they're all three that I'd be happy to have. So let's give an answer here because we've kind of gone around on the analysis here. I would probably target Jaden Campbell out of these 3 just for the wing fullback flexibility because there are halves I want to buy next week. What about you?
I'm probably, I think I'm targeting Campbell. I think Katoa is extremely expensive and is only covers halves. I think it's good to have that dual position coverage. I think I'm going Campbell, Sharp, and Katoa, but all 3 are amazing options this week. You could arguably do Katoa and one of them and put one of these guys in your fullbacks. But I think, look, just to speed up this discussion, moving on to Hines, I think, look, I wouldn't be buying Hines with these 3 available. I would just be, Hines is just, he's just what he is this year. I just can't see the Renaissance Hines coming back. So I think that's an easy one. If you've got him, I would hold him like we said, but I wouldn't buy him. And then Humphreys, a lot of people are hyping up Humphreys, and he'll score really well with Latrell out because he'll get 600, 700 meters. He'll get the goals back. But you're going to spend $454K on a rental for 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, and then every other week he is scoring 25 points. Like, what's the point of that? You could get that out of other people. So I'd be firmly skipping Humphreys, especially with the list above him. So I think that's a pretty easy decision in my mind.
Yeah, probably more of a draft option there. I still say with Nico, that Dragons matchup, I'm feeling a big one. And it's hope more than anything.
Yeah, same. I'm hoping. Yeah. I'm praying. Anyway.
Yeah. Now, the center position, and I've included that little photo of Purdue, the pretty pictures that we love. Jackson Purdue, good matchup this week, good fixture next to Clifford there. I reckon Purdue will go pretty well. So if you've got Purdue, I'd be comfortable starting him this week. But in terms of center targets, this one's super straightforward, so we can blast through this. Herbie Farnworth, Dylan Lucas, Bo Firma. If you've watched the show before, you've heard us gush about these guys. Biz in particular, preseason was all over Dylan Lucas, and you were calling everything that we've seen so far. He would be pumping like a 65 average without that shoulder injury as well. So, yeah, these guys are studs. If you don't own these guys, hey, and no, you probably have a couple. Like if we had to rank them, Biz, as options,
it's in that order.
I like the matchup for Herbie this week.
Herbie, Dylan, and Bo. I think you need to have at least two of them because they're the best three centers in the game. I mean, I assume most top teams have Herbie and Dylan.
Yeah.
Or one of them plus Bo. I would be very surprised if any of the top teams have anyone outside of this playing this week. But there is optionality for if you've got a third guy, like you could move Lucas or Fermor to your second row and play. The thing is, it sounds crazy, but centers actually, like these three are so lucrative. Like, Herbie averaged 60 points this year, like over 60 points as a center.
He was 55 coming into the year, and we were like, oh, no one's ever beaten 55 at center. Yeah, it can't happen.
No, I did say in the preseason show, I distinctly say it could happen just because he kept that form in internationals and he was scoring 85, 90 for England. I was like, look, if he continues that, like he is an absolute weapon. I just think he hasn't had his full boom game yet. There will be a hat trick game with 12 tackle breaks, 5 offloads, and he's like 120 points. Like it's coming. So I think center's really easy. Get Herbie, get Dylan, or get Bo. And then the only reason I'm looking at Garrick is like you always say, if you're a new player who hasn't got much cash, I'd do it. But the top three are just much better than everyone else.
If you're looking to have fun, though, Gagai is. He used to be, if you're new, you probably don't know this, he used to be the primo center guy. Right? He was the top center in fantasy for ages.
He was Herbie, yeah,
until last year he lost it. Yeah. That form is coming back. 577K, I'm not against it. And Ruben Garrick, probably more of a wing fullback option, really. But I wanted to mention him as well. He's about as cheap as he's going to get. Like this is the cheapest you'll get, Ruben Garrick. Very reliable guy to be your fifth guy in that sort of wing fullback center section, or maybe your sixth guy if you're doing well financially. Titans matchup this week. Again, we talked about them. They're missing guys. Ruben Garrick should absolutely carve them up. He nearly had a massive score last week, but Jack Cogger cut him down in one of the best like one-on-one try-saving tackles that I did not expect to see from Jack Cogger. So as much as Cogger is, isn't rated super highly by Knights fans, that was a cracking tackle from him. I hated to see it, though, as a Garrick owner. So Garrick's a great option, too. And then wing fullback here, Carraz, Tedesco, Drinkwater. They're the three. Obviously, Campbell and Sharp we talked about in the other section as well. Let's include Campbell in this section and sort of just talk about it because, look, Campbell's that guy. We know who he is. Jacob Carraz, machine, had like 32 points from offloads last week. Was looking a little bit injured at times. That is a bit concerning, but is a stud, plays both major bye rounds. Tedesco is Tedesco, and he has hit some insane form. And now the Roosters are playing well too. His limit is basic; it just doesn't exist at this stage. I think Sam Walker coming back is probably good news for him too, because Sandon Smith is more of an individual ball running type player, whereas Sam Walker is more of a create for the guys outside of him type of guy. So I think we see Teddy crack even more attacking stats, maybe hold the ball a bit less, but more attacking stats. And then Drinkwater came out and produced in a game where they got smacked by the Storm. He scored 56 last week. He's scoring tries all over the place. I delayed this one because I was a bit concerned about him without Clifford in the team. Clifford's back this week, but without Clifford in the team, his scores are a bit lower, and we've seen that sort of turn around there. So I like him. I like the matchup this week. I think he goes well.
I think he's great. I mean, I got not much to add. I think Drinkwater is the best option in terms of value perspective. He's been hovering in the high 40s every year, and we've talked about this on many of these shows, but adding 6-8 points in goals and he gets to mid-50s, and that's exactly what he's doing. He has some low games, he has some boom games. I think Cowboys are on the way up, for sure, compared to where they started the year. And against Storm in Melbourne in a beatdown, 56, 57 points is a great signs. I was worried that could be a 20-point game. So
that's why I held off myself.
Yeah, I think now is a great time to buy him. Tommy Turbo, mate, we've got to spend 20 minutes to watch Tommy Turbo because we all on the Tommy Turbo train at the Casual Athlete.
We all jumped on.
Yeah,
he's a major buy round specialist, bro.
Yeah, well, I bought him for round 12. No, was it round 12? I bought him one of the rounds. and I need him for round 15, and I probably won't use him again until round 18. So I don't care if he's injured for the middle rounds, as long as he's here on the bye rounds and he's named. Rumors that it's not actually a cork or a thigh, it's actually his hammy, and they've tried to keep it under wraps. I don't know how true that is, but I don't care. Like, honestly, whatever injury he's got, I could not care less. Like, God bless you, Tommy Turbo, stay healthy. But as long as you play round 15 and round 18, you can do whatever in the rounds between. You can go, join Josh Dugan and Blake Ferguson drinking cruises on the roof or something. I don't care. Just be there for those rounds.
What's your score prediction? The Turbo Man this week up against the Titans under strength, and Manly have DCE as well. 66
points. Let's go. I reckon he's back. I honestly, against Parramatta, when he scored that 40-odd, he was trying hard. And he just couldn't. He was running straight fine, but he had zero lateral movement.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this 2-week rest has kind of got him on track and he can play well. At 400K, or what's really downside? Like, there's much worse looping options going forward. Yeah. If he's sitting at the bottom of my bench, if Tommy Turbo's sitting at the bottom of my bench for 400K, so be it. He'll be joined by Reece Walsh next week. And maybe Kalen Ponga in a few weeks.
Oh, mate, you can have the.
I'll have the Days Gone trio.
See, man, I reckon he pumps up. I reckon he tears up like 89 points this week. I'm calling, and that's again, it's my heart speaking. We were chatting earlier today, and I was getting asked like, is he going to start this week? My heart said he would start. Here he is. Now my heart is saying 89 points. Now, if I was a coach who had cash and I was looking at this list, would I buy Turbo over any of the three above him? No. But at the time when I bought him, same as you, I needed a guy at about 400K. He made sense. I bought him in. Titans matchup's good. The Parramatta matchup was meant to be good too, but now they have DCE. They've got Olakau'atu. Like, they are near full strength. They're basically at full strength, which is just crazy up against the Titan side lacking guys. So, yeah, Turbo, if you're low on cash or if you just want to have a bit of fun with us, Turbo plays both major buy rounds. He's going to be a killer. And then Tyrone Munro is the last one. And look, he's too close in price to Turbo for me to really consider as an option. I think if you're buying him, you'd probably be better off buying Turbo. But Munro's a guy who, not a great fantasy scorer historically. South Sydney are looking a bit better. He could score a few tries and pump out some big games. He's a bit like Johnston, right? Like, he's a guy who, he can score a try, but his scores will range from 10 points to 60. More of a loophole guy. Covers major buy rounds. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think Latrell can hit him with some great balls, but in his 2 games this year, 41 minutes for 30 with 2 tries in round 1, and then last week against the Raiders, 25 points playing at center. 169 meters gained is a great sign, and 25 points with no attacking stats is a great sign. But he's got what? He's got the Dogs this week, and he's got Melbourne. No thanks.
Yeah, agree. So Turbo it is. If you were picking one of those top 3, though, because this is going to be the question we get asked, then we'll finish up. Kraz, Tedesco, Drinkwater. Which one are you getting this week? And let's say you have the cash.
Probably Drinkwater. I think the value is good.
I'm going to go Teddy myself. Okay. I think Drink's had to make some really nice plays to get those scores, whereas Teddy kind of gets there just on being, a machine. At the start of the year, it wasn't the case. It's become the case now. But for my team, I can straight swap Tamale to Drinkwater. So I'm probably going to buy Drinkwater myself. It's just Teddy would cost an extra trade, and I don't think the gap is that big.
No, I don't think there's a gap big enough to justify a second trade. Teddy just Drinkwater. You're relying on like you said, like the big couple of plays, and he's not as involved in the game. Whereas Teddy's taking 2 runs a set, so you're more confident that the big play is coming because there's any given chance for a big offload. And Teddy he's been only 0.3 tries a game this year, so there is upside as they get better. And they've got a pretty friendly run with the Knights, the Cows, the Tigers, the Dragons, and the Sharks next 5. So could be some big scores there, especially as the Roosters get better and better this year. And they have been overperforming and their troops are coming back. So I don't mind Teddy at all.
That's a beautiful run. That's us buy, hold, sell, done and dusted, guys. Quick shout out to Brendan Piakura, who bumped out 57 points. We will discuss him in depth next week. He'll be at the start of the episode, probably about a 20-minute segment, right, Biz?
Oh, absolutely. We should just do a separate buy, hold, sell where it's just buy Piakura and just skip hold.
10 reasons to buy Piakura.
Yeah, 100%. We should actually film that. That'll be fun.
We're doing that. Anyway, cheers for jumping on, man. Appreciate you. Everyone, good luck this week. Drop your trades in the comments. I want to see them. And who's got the best rank? I want to know that too. Peace out, guys.
See ya.